Hello, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, got it. Okay, yes. Right. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you to join us to this HNL Agro Live in collaboration with Syngenta. My name is Isidro Vasquez. I am from Syngenta in the Caribbean. In this opportunity, we have a very good presentation, which is a pest control in crop production. In this time, we have the opportunity to hear to Lorena Lastres, an expert on this matter. Thank you again. Lorena, welcome.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Jamaica. I'm so glad to be able to teach again. I've been to Jamaica 3 times before, working with the Fintrack project, and I'm very glad to be here with you today. So we're going to start, and should I go ahead and start with the presentation? Is that okay? Yeah. The presentation we have today is called Practical Entomology and Basic Aspects about Pests. Insects are the most abundant and diverse animals that exist. They are present almost in everywhere, and they can be agriculture pests. We can have soil pests, vectors, defoliators, borers. They can be veterinary pests as vectors, parasites. They can be intruders in export crop transport, pests of stored grains, pests in aquatic systems. They can also be important in human health as vectors of diseases, house pests, pests in public and touristic places. So they're very important in our lives. On the right, upper right, you can see some true bugs in okra crop. They are sucking insects, they are pests. On the lower right, you can see a mosquito. That's a vector of human diseases like Zika virus, dengue, very important for humans, malaria. On our next slide, we have, I need the next slide, please. Yeah, I'm trying to show, we have chrysomelics on the left, a Lepidoptera larva on the left, the lower side. On the next slide, we have fruit flies, larvae. We have a true bug that is a pest, it's a vector of disease in humans. We also have white flies, roaches. So all of them involve our lives. You know, they can be pests at home, or they can be pests in agriculture and in other places. I'm going to go and review with you characteristics of insects. Adult insects have the following characteristics. They have exoskeleton. Their body is sclerotized. Their body is divided into 3 parts: head, thorax, and abdomen. They have 3 pairs of legs, a pair of antennae, and usually adults have wings. That makes insects very, very different from other arthropods that are related to insects, like arachnids or like crustaceans. And normally, the reproduction of insects is usually bisexual reproduction, and they normally lay eggs. I'm showing here some examples. The next slide, we have a butterfly. Next to the butterfly, it's a larva. That's one of the stages, and also a pupa. The only stage missing for the Lepidoptera on the left is really the egg stage. On the right, I have a true bug. You can see the antenna. You can see the wings that are folded on top of the body. And the body is divided into three parts: head, thorax, and abdomen. We need to identify insects to be able to manage them. So what's important to identify? Why is it important to identify insects? To know how they affect our crops, whether they are beneficials, for example, pollinators, natural enemies, whether they're pests, they can be vectors, defoliators, borers, or they are innocuous. They cause no harm or no benefit. Once we know what an insect, or what insect we have, we can manage them. We need to know the mouth part that insect has, how the insect feeds, what's the feeding habits, how to use and care for its natural enemies. And knowing the insect saves us money because we know what order it belongs to, and we can use an insecticide used for other members of the same order of insects. How precise must the identification of a pest be? It depends on what we plan to do with it. To use an insecticide, you only need to know what order it belongs to and what mouth parts it has. But to be able to control it with biological control, you need to know the genus and the species. It has to be very specific. How we identify insects. We determine the type of insect we have based on their characteristics. What characteristics are used? Type of mouth parts. You can have chewing mouth parts, sucking mouth parts, or scraper sucking mouth parts like threads. Chewing mouth parts, for example, a Lepidoptera larva, a beetle. Sucking mouth parts, an aphid, a whitefly. And scraper sucking mouth parts, a thrip or a spider mites. You also need the type, the color, and the number of wings of an insect to be able to identify what order it belongs to. The first, I'm going to give you some examples. In beetles, the first pair of wings is hard and normally it has color. That's the only order that has that type of wings. You can also have other insects with paper-like wings: bees, wasps, flies, dragonflies. Many insects have wings that are paper-like. Another order, which is Hemiptera, true bugs, has wings that the first pair of wings is half hard and half paper-like. It's unique to this order. So it's very distinct that each order has a certain type of wings, and it's useful to know that to be able to identify what we're dealing with. The other thing that is useful to identify insects is the antenna. And in this case, I'm not going to go into deep details about the type of antenna, but just the fact that the antenna may be very small and conspicuous, or very large or large and you can notice it. Because certain orders have certain types of antenna. For example, many flies have very short, very small antenna, whereas wasps or true bugs have big antenna that can be noticed. To classify insects, or in fact living organisms, we use taxonomy. And taxonomy really uses characteristics that are common to different organisms, so that those that show the same or close characteristics are grouped together. That's what you do in taxonomy. The closer or the more similar animals are, they are grouped in the same order, for example. Each living organism has a scientific name, and a scientific name is composed of a genus and a species. For example, for humans, our scientific name is Homo sapiens. Every animal has a scientific name because otherwise, in different languages and different regions, one organism is called in different names, and that causes a lot of confusion, and it's very hard to talk about things and to know about things. So it's very useful to have scientific names. Each living organism has a scientific name and is composed of a genus and a species. And here I'm showing, in the case of fall armyworm, which is Lepidoptera frugiperda, I'm showing here the taxonomic classification. We have, it belongs to the kingdom Animal, phylum Arthropod, classe Insecta, order Lepidoptera, family, the family of fall armyworm is the Noctuidae family, the genus Spodoptera, the species Frugiperda for fall armyworm, that is the one that is very common in corn. But also within the same genus, you have other species. For example, Sunia, the upper photograph, the one on the top, is Spodoptera frugiperda, and you can know it and distinguish it from other species because it has 4 dots in the last part of the body, right here near the bottom. You can see 4 dots that make a square. That's very characteristic of the species. It may be different colors, it may be darker, maybe a little bit greener, but those dots never disappear for the species. The other one showing below it, it's Spodoptera sunia, and it's like a cousin of Spodoptera frugiperda. It belongs to the same genus, but it's a different species, and it's very related, very close. And it has different patterns on the body. It has dark triangles, and within the triangle there's a small yellow spot, and that's one of the ways of knowing it. I want to share with you some facts that you need to remember about insects. The members of each order share similar characteristics. So, I have the right slide there. Members of an order all share the same mouth parts, but we have some exceptions. True flies, which belong to the order Diptera, and bees and wasps that belong to the order Hymenoptera, they have members with different mouth parts. For example, a housefly, it's a Diptera, and a mosquito is also a Diptera. A housefly has a sponge-type mouth part. A mosquito has a piercing mouth part. So it's very different, but they belong to the same order. Diptera have that exception. All moths and butterflies have larvae with chewing mouth parts. Within the order Lepidoptera, every larva of that order has the same type of mouth parts. All beetles, adults, and larvae share the same chewing mouth parts. That's very, very specific for that order. All true bugs, which are order Hemiptera, all aphids, whiteflies, leafhoppers, cicadas, scales, which are Homoptera, they have sucking mouth parts. Within those orders, there is no variation. All of them have sucking mouth parts. Now we're going to see a little bit of the life cycles. Within the variety of things we find in insects, we have basically 2 different types of cycles, life cycles. We have 3 stages life cycle, And the stages are adult, eggs, and young or nymphs. I need the next slide, please. When I have a 3-stage life cycle, I have 3 stages, which are adult, the adult lays eggs, and the eggs become young, which is the common or the regular vocabulary for it, or you have the nymph, which is the technical word for it. Here on the pictures, we have adults having sex, then we have eggs, and then we have nymphs or young true buds in that picture. Here is just a slide showing which different orders have this life cycle that has only 3 stages. We have dragonflies, and the dragonflies belong to the order Odonata. They have chewing mouthparts. We have Homoptera. They have sucking mouthparts. And within the Homoptera, you have cicadas, leafhoppers, aphids, whiteflies, scales, mealybugs. Then you have the order Orthoptera. They have chewing mouthparts, and you can have here crickets, leafhoppers, katydids. You also have praying mantis, which belong to the order Mantodea. They have chewing mouthparts. Roaches, they belong to the order Blattaria. You have true plant bugs. They belong to the order Hemiptera. They have sucking mouthparts. And I classify really thrips within this cycle because you don't really have larvae. In thrips, you have 4 stages because there's a pupal stage, but they have the characteristics of an insect of 3 stages. So I have it in this group. Normally, entomologists disagree, and they have it in a 4-stage life cycle group. So this is the range of insects you have that have life cycle of 3 stages. The stages are adult, eggs, and young or nymph. Here we have, I'm going to pass this slide because the pictures don't belong here. I'm going to pass to the next one because those are Lepidoptera larvae, and here it says Hemiptera. I'm going to pass to Homoptera. I'm sorry, I don't have the time to go over each order, otherwise we wouldn't finish today. Where Homoptera, they are a very diverse group. They have sucking mouthparts, normally very short antenna, wings closed like a 2-sided rule, like this. And in this group, there's no beneficial insects. All of them are pests or at least are sucking insects. They are no beneficials. Here I'm showing aphids. Normally there's a symbiotic association between ants and aphids. Ants protect aphids, and aphids in return give ants sugary substances, which are what they defecate. So it's you give me protection, I give you food. You know, it's a symbiotic relationship. Down here, the lower photograph, it's a psyllid. A psyllid is the vector of Huang Longbin in citrus crops. It's a very important Homoptera vector. We're going to the next group, Thysanoptera, which are thrips. They have elongated body, feathery wings. They have a scraper sucking mouthparts. They are very small in size. Their damage simulates burning. They're very common during dry season, not so much during rainy season. They almost disappear during rainy season. And they can be very important vectors of tospoviruses. Tospoviruses are persistent viruses transmitted by thrips. They're very important now in the Caribbean and in Central America as well. Here we have a picture of a thrip and also a picture of a leaf of a green pepper leaf that has characteristics of tospovirus. You can see that many of the lesions are round in shape, That's unique to this type of viruses. The next slide, we're going to see life cycles of 4 stages. We have adult. The adult lays eggs. From the egg, we get a worm or larva. Larva is the technical word. And then the larva becomes a cocoon or a pupa. We have 4 stages here. And on the pictures, you see a lady beetle. It's a beneficial insect. It eats aphids and small insects. We have the adult, the eggs, the larvae, and the pupae. In this particular case, 2 of the stages eat other insects. 2 of the stages are predators. The adult and the larvae eat other insects. The eggs and the pupae don't eat. They are hidden. We're going to see next different orders that belong to this type of life cycle. We're talking about the life cycle of 4 stages. Next slide, please. We have Lepidoptera larva. Lepidoptera, the group. We have moths and butterflies. Those are Lepidoptera. Lepi means scales and ptera means wing. This group is unique because it has the body covered by scales. Every time you touch a butterfly, you end up with a little bit of dust. That's the scales that cover the body and the wings of Lepidoptera, which are moths and butterflies. By the way, moths are the ones that are active at night, and butterflies are the ones that are colorful and are active during the day. Here we also have a group called Coleoptera, which are beetles. Within the beetles, we can have weevils, ladybugs, chrysomelids, and certain borers. We also have another group called Hymenoptera, and to this group belong honeybees, wasps, and ants. In this group, many of the insects have social organization. For example, bees, wasps have a queen, have workers. That's social organization. This is the only group that has social organization. We also have the Diptera group, which are flies, true flies, mosquitoes, fruit flies. They're called Diptera because they are the only group that has only 2 wings. All the other groups of insects, all of them have 4 wings. Diptera have only 2 wings. Here we also have more Diptera, leaf miners, parasitoid, and predatory flies. We have parasitoid flies. They belong to certain family, the tachinid family. They're very useful to control, especially Lepidoptera larvae. And within Hymenoptera, we also have ants and parasitic wasps. This is what we're showing. There's 2 more groups within one more group at least that is not shown here, but is very important as predators and as natural enemies. We're going to see some characteristics of the groups. And here I want you to pay a lot of attention to the larva, because you need to, as a farmer or as a producer, you need to identify, to be able to identify the larva you are dealing with. Here are Lepidoptera, as we talked about before. We have butterflies and moths, and Lepidoptera larvae have unique characteristics. They have well-formed head. The head, you can see where the head is. It's big. It has the mandibles. Next to the head, you have 3 pairs of 2 legs. Those are going to become the legs of the adult insect. But in this group, it is unique that they have false legs. False legs are these gummy structures that you see on the lower side and the back of the insect. And they are useful for the insect to walk when it's on the larva stage. The only larvae that have true legs, false legs, and big head that you can recognize are the Lepidoptera larvae. And it's unique that you learned that, because against this group, there's very good molecules to be able to control without affecting other pollinators or beneficial insects. There's very unique molecules to control Lepidoptera, and they're very green type. green or blue label. Very good molecules. So that's Lepidoptera. Here, I'm going to show what a pupa looks like. Next slide, please. Normally, a pupa, you can see on the pupa what it will become. You can see the abdomen, you can see the wings, you can see the head, and you can see the mouth parts. What you see there that is coiled, rolled, it's what's called the proboscis. It's like a drinking straw that is stretched and then pulled. And that's unique to this order. Here I'm showing moths on this slide. Moths are darker in color. They are normally all Lepidoptera have long antennae. You can notice the antenna. The wings and the body are covered by scales. And the adults only feed on liquid, sweet liquids like flower nectars and fruits and things that are sweet. They have very distinct feeding habits from the larvae. The larvae are chewing, they have a chewing mouth parts and they may be pests. The adult doesn't. It doesn't damage plants. The next group here is Coleoptera. There's a misspelling here, Coleoptera. The O must be before the E. They have very hard skeleton. The first pair of wings is used for protection. It's always colored. It's never transparent, or it's not colorless. It's always colorful. It's very hard. Adults and larvae have chewing mouth parts, all of them. The larvae may be very diverse, but they always have well-defined head, true legs, but never have false legs. That's unique to this group. See, and that makes them different from Lepidoptera larvae, and that's one of the ways to be able to make the difference between the two of them. Coleoptera larvae never have false legs. The head is easy to see. They have big mandibles. The shapes are very different, but they never have false legs. Here you can see also a pupa on the upper left. That's the pupa. This is a wireworm. On the right, up right, you have a wireworm, which is the larval stage of elaterate beetle, a click beetle. The adult, it's a click beetle. The larvae are called wireworms, and on the left you can see the pupa of that same insect. Here you have white grubs on the lower left, which many of the Coleoptera larvae are soil pests and are difficult to control, because what kills a Coleoptera kills everything. You know, for Coleoptera there's no special molecules. The only thing that can kill Coleoptera and not kill all the beneficial insects are probably entomopathogens. Otherwise, everything that kills Coleoptera kills the rest. Now we're going to see Diptera, which are flies, true flies. They have only 2 wings. In this group, the adult may have different mouth parts. This group is unique because of that. Almost all of the groups have the same type of mouth parts for the adults. The larvae are unique because they have no defined head or no defined legs. It's a pity you didn't put the other picture. On the right, on the bottom right, there's a leaf miner larva, and you can see if you're curious, or if you see a fruit fly or a leaf miner, when you get the larva has no head and no legs. It looks more like a rice grain. That's what you see. The larvae are unique, and they have no legs, no head, and they're always within a moist environment. For example, a fruit fly is inside a fruit. A leaf miner is inside the leaf. You will never find a larva of a Diptera that is exposed to sun and to wind or to environmental conditions. Not a pest. It's always within a moist environment. And that makes them very difficult to control, because even though it doesn't look like it has a head and it has a mouth, it really has chewing mouth parts. And if it's within a fruit, for example, a fruit fly larva is within a fruit, there's no insecticide that you can use to kill it. Systemic insecticides concentrate on the plant sap. And this is a chewing larva. You can't do much with a systemic insecticide against Diptera larva. So we're going to see groups of pests, the way how to manage different groups of pests, to give you an idea of what they are and how to manage them. I'm going to list a number of things, and then we're going to see in detail. Within chewing insects, we have Lepidoptera larvae. Also, another group is virus, phytoplasma, and bacterial vectors. Within this group, we have homopterans like aphids, whiteflies, psyllids, and another group, another order here are thrips. Very different, but they can also be vectors or viruses. We also have non-vector sucking insects like scales, true bugs, mealybugs, leafhoppers, speed bugs. Another group, soil pests. Mainly we have coleoptera larvae like white grubs, wireworms, chrysomelid worms. Another group, weevil and other coleoptera borers. This group is very important because it's very different. It's very difficult to control them. They are inside a structure and they have chewing mouth parts, and that makes control very different. We also have Diptera larvae like fruit flies, leaf miners, corn fly. We also have insects and arachnids with scraper-sucking mouth parts like thrips and spider mites. And the last group I'm going to mention here is adult and larvae of coleoptera, like chrysomelid. They can be a pest, a defoliator pest, either as an adult or as a larva. And we're going to see some examples. So we're going to start with this first group. The first group is the Lepidoptera larva. These larvae are unique. They have an elongated body, large head, 3 pairs of true legs, and the presence of false legs. That's unique to this group. They may be, within the Lepidoptera larva, you have 3 types of damages. You may have defoliators, borers that get into the structure and damage inside, and you also have cutters. Some of them are specialized in just cutting small plants. That's the damage thing. Most adults of the pest species are nocturnal in habit. You don't see them during the day. They go out at night. Attraction between sexes is normally by the use of sexual pheromones. And that's why commercially, sexual pheromones may be a way of attacking this group. It's a good way of doing it because you don't harm, you don't damage anything else. It's specific for this species. Adults feed on flower nectars and sugary substances. I'm going to show some examples here of the different types of Lepidopteras. The life cycle of the insect, damage on leaf is obvious and has irregular shape when you have a defoliator. Here on the bottom left, you have some Spodoptera damaging tomato. Here are the small larvae, and this type of damage is called window damage because you can see the epidermis is there and you can see through the leaf. The green part of the leaf has disappeared because the larvae have eaten it, but you can see through the epidermis because the epidermis is intact. These are That's an example of the defoliator. On the upper left, you have an example of a cutter. Normally, a cutter belongs to a certain genus and is very specialized. It's very, the larva lives longer and it's very hard to kill. It's very hard, it has a very hard skin. Now here on the right, we have borers. You can see the small holes and sugarcane made by the borer on the upper photograph. And on the lower photograph, you can see the larva inside the channel that the larva has made in sugarcane. See, in this pictures, you can see the three types of larva that you may have acting as a cutter, as defoliators, or as borers. We're gonna review a little bit how to manage them or what to do with them. And I'm going to ask you to think of this. What's easier to manage, a defoliator, a borer, or a cutter? And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the characteristics of insecticides that are effective in controlling Lepidoptera larvae. They are either contact or ingestion insecticides. That's the type of insecticide you use against Lepidoptera larvae. They are either contact or ingestion. Many of them can have both types of action. They need good coverage to be highly effective. And the residuality of some of the chemicals can help you to control the egg stage. See, normally in Lepidoptera, in our climate that is relatively warm, the egg stage doesn't last more than 4 or 5 days. If you have a molecule or an insecticide that lasts longer than 6 or 7 days and you have a good coverage, that ensures that you end up really killing the larvae that come out of the eggs. Normally, the insecticide doesn't really kill the egg, but it leaves the surface of the egg with the venom. When the larva eats the crust of the egg to come out, that's when it dies. So it's very useful to have a molecule that lasts longer to be able to affect the egg stage and the larva stage, 2 stages of the cycle. And in Syngenta, we have a very good molecule with that characteristic. It's called Proclaim. Now, let me ask you this question. Can I control a borer larva once it is inside a structure with a foliar application? Can I control a cutter larva with a foliar application? Think of it. If the larva is already inside the structure that it damages, there's not much that you can do. So using an insecticide exclusively to control a borer larva, it's almost useless. Borer larvae enter the structure, they attack immediately after hatching from the egg. So that makes it very difficult to do a good control of this type of larva. Cutter larvae are nocturnal and they hide during the day. So if you're going to use a foliar application against a cutter larva, you need to do the application at night and make sure the larvae are active while you do the application to be more effective. Now, what's easier to manage from what I've told you? A defoliator, a borer, or a cutter? Think of it. What would your best management strategy be and why? For Lepidoptera borer, it is ideal to use egg parasitoids for the egg stage under an integrated pest management program. The small wasps that in some places are commercial and you can liberate and they take care of the egg stage. The wasp parasitizes the egg stage and from that egg is going to come out a new wasp instead of a new larva. So it's very useful, but it has to be used under an integrated pest management. Otherwise, if you use any type of pesticide and you don't take care of your natural enemies, you're not doing much. Alternatively, you can use specific molecules with a residuality greater than 6 days and good coverage. What I was saying about the fact that you can get rid of the egg stage if you have very good coverage and longevity of your insecticide. In crops where larvae attack growing tips and plants grow very fast, it is best if the insecticides, besides having long residuality, has a contact effect. We see that very common in melons and watermelons, for example. In watermelons and melons, we have a species called Diaphania yalinata or Diaphania nitida, 2 species, and they always go for the growing tips. So what you spray today is not covered tomorrow, because melon has a stage where it grows like 6 inches in one day. So what was covered yesterday is no longer covered, and that's where the moth is going to lay the eggs. So in that case, it's very useful to use an insecticide like Proclaim from Syngenta that lasts 7, 8 or more days in the crop, and that also has contact effect. What characteristics should a good insecticide have for Lepidoptera larvae management within an IPM program, and why? You need selectivity so that you can save your natural enemies. You need effectiveness. You need residuality. And if possible, you need to be able to control more than one stage of the pest species. What stages can you control? Egg and larvae at the same time when you have residuality. Syngenta offers you match Caradic Scion against Lepidoptera larvae. I'm going to go to the next group. How are we doing with time? I'm a little bit worried because sometimes I get excited and explain a lot. Well, and let's see the next group. Virus, phytoplasma, or bacterial vectors. You have 2 groups of insects here. You may have Homoptera, aphids, whiteflies, and psyllids are Homoptera, and you may have thrips as vectors as well. When you have Homoptera, they belong to the order Homoptera, and all members have sucking mouthparts. Thrips belong to the order Taxonomy, and they have scraper sucking mouthparts. They are not killed by systemic insecticides as easily as a sucking insect. All the different vectors, aphids, whiteflies, and thrips may have a very wide range of hosts. So you have to be very careful, not only managing what you have inside your crops, but what you have on the surroundings. And many of the hosts may be weeds. Psyllids, like Bactericera or the other Diaphorina, which are very important now for citrus crops, they have a very narrow host range. So that makes, when an insect has a narrow host range, it makes I need the slide with the pictures, please. The next one. Yeah, we have aphids on the upper left. We have Bactericera coquerelli, very, very important for solanaceous crops because it transmits bacteria and phytoplasma. On the lower right, you have aphids. On the middle, you have Bemisia tabasi, which is the whitefly that is to protect beneficial insects and pollinators. Systemic insecticides that are absorbed by roots are very selective against natural enemies and have lower application costs because they can be applied with drip irrigation. when a systemic insecticide is absorbed by the roots, you don't affect anything that is on top of your plant or that is on the foliage. So that's very, very selective for natural enemies. It is very good. And it's cheaper to apply if you use drip irrigation. Is now for controlling vectors, you need insecticide rotation. That's a must. And to rotate properly, you need to know family and modes of action of an insecticide. You don't just rotate by seeing, well, this insecticide is called, say, Diptera, and the other one is called something else. And just by changing names, I'm not rotating. I need to know family of the insecticide. You need to read labels. Insecticides with mode of action that interfere with the stylet of sucking vectors are outstanding for vector management, rotation, and preservation of beneficial insects. For example, no, Diptera is not, it's chess, it's pimetrocin. There's a mistake here. I'm sure that you don't have it in Jamaica probably, but the molecule I'm talking about, it's called, the active ingredient is pimetrocin. It's not Diptera. There's a mistake on the.
Lorena?
Okay. Yeah.
We have some questions. We spent more than 45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the first question is from Donald Smith on Facebook.
Okay.
He wants to know what is the best product to treat whiteflies.
Well, for whiteflies, you have a range of products. You may use a systemic insecticides. The systemic insecticides that we have in Syngenta, we offer Pegasus, Diptera, Vertimec, NGO, how do you call it in English?
NGO.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a number of things that you can use. You can use systemic insecticides. You can use contact insecticides that's specific for sucking insects. And you can also use entomopathogens like verticillium and things like that. You know, there's not just one product.
Okay. Thank you. For the same person, mites, what's recommended to treat that also?
What?
How do you recommend, what do you recommend to treat mites?
Mites. For mites, you want a
it's very general. Yeah.
I would let me see what we have here to offer. I'm checking my presentation.
Yes.
See, I
you
would
mentioned.
prefer that. No, it's the last group here. For what Syngenta offers in Caribbean, yeah, it's Pegasus and Vertimec. But I would prefer that people would ask, how do you manage it? Because really, it's not what do I use against it. If you have the idea that just by applying an insecticide you get rid of the problem, that's not true. Really. When we see life cycles, that's impossible. You need to manage something. You need to get rid of the alternate host. You need to take care of the beneficials. You need to have equilibrium. You know, it's not just what do I use against that. I would prefer to have questions that are more important, more relevant, more to thinking of management, not just one control, one insecticide.
Okay, thank you, Lorena. I don't know how many slides do we still pending to present it, but
we have quite a bit. Yeah.
How many?
Let me see. we're just dealing with the second group, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a big number. Yeah.
A big number. Okay. Well, we are going to have more than these sessions. I think we can arrange to continue the presentation in the next session to finalize this theme.
Yeah, I'm sorry, because this part of the presentation is what deals with how to manage them.
Okay,
so it's
yeah,
very,
it's very
so
important.
maybe,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead too.
Well, I hope there's more questions and there's more things to explain, and I hope this has been useful.
Yeah. You can just you can continue, because I think everybody wants to know how to manage these problems, and that's the part of the presentation that you are going to present now.
Okay, so let me go on. We are on a slide that says what type of insecticides are optimal for vector management. Maybe you can help us with that. What type of insecticides are optimal for vector management?
I think they are not presenting, but you can.
That's it. Yeah, now we have it.
Okay, yeah, you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just listing that we have Pegasus, Vertimec, Ingeo, and then recommended insecticides for proper vector control. Insecticides recommended to control insect vectors include Diptera, Ingeo, Vertimec, and Pegasus. The two last ones are also translaminar, and they can control thrips and spider mites. Anything that's translaminar is going to be useful against thrips and spider mites. Then we have some of the labels. You can go on now with the slides. You can pass the slides. Yeah. Now there, that's Diptera. And if you see here, when you talk about Diptera, it says for control of whiteflies, aphids, mealybugs, flea beetle, leaf miners, banana borer, enzyme scales, wireworms. See, Diptera has a very wide range of action. And if you use it to be absorbed by the roots, it's very selective. If you use it sprayed, it kills almost any beetle or anything that's around. So it's best to use it through drip irrigation if you want to control basically sucking insects. Here, there's a Vertimec, that's the next slide. It's very effective against leaf, mites, leaf miners, thrips as well. Pegasus, the next choice. For whiteflies, aphids, thrips, and mites. And then you have Ingeo. Here, I'm going to use this slide to try and teach a little bit. Here, this product, Ingeo, has really two families of insecticides. You have neonicotinoids and pyrethroids. See, when you're using an insecticide, you need to know what family it belongs to. So if you've been using a neonicotinoid, for example, Diptera, you shouldn't rotate with Ingeo because it has the same mode of action, because it belongs to the same family. See the point here? That's how I say that you need to read labels to know a family of the insecticide. So you need not to repeat the same family you've been using. That's how you rotate. Now, The next slide shows non-vector sucking insects, scales, mealybugs, true bugs, leafhoppers, cicadas. Scales and mealybugs are pests in trees, ornamentals, and perennial crops because they have very little mobility. See, if you had pests like mealybugs and scales on annual crops, for example, melons, a melon plant is ready to go out in 60 days. It won't survive. Things are very slow moving. Are pests in trees and ornamentals and things that you don't cut and replant every time. Soft scales and mealybugs maintain a symbiotic relationship with ants. Ants protect them against natural enemies and get sugary substances in return, what I was talking about before. So when you want to get rid of soft scales and mealybugs, if you don't get rid of the ants before, you're not going to do much because they're going to bring them back to your crop. Okay. You need to get rid of the ants before you try to control mealybugs and soft scales. And the same goes with aphids and things like that. See, the ants can transport small mealybugs, small aphids to new hosts. You need to be very careful with that.
Lorena.
Yeah?
Yes. We are going to, well, the session is going to close just in a few seconds. We want to thank you for your very good presentation. We have another sessions in the weeks that are coming. We want to thanks to everybody to join us. We are going to share the material because somebody are asking for the presentation. I think there is no problem to share it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you again to join us in this HNL Agro Live in collaboration with Syngenta. We are going to finish this presentation. Thank you, Lorena. Thank you to everybody.
You're welcome.